Greetings everyone, my name is Rahim Betty and I am a final year communication studies student at the Northern Caribbean University with a minor in English writing emphasis. And now today we will be talking about the poem titled A Woman Painted on a Leaf by Eavan Boland. Okay, so without further ado, let us get into the poem itself. Let's talk about that. Now, what type of poem is it? From my point of view, it is a modern slash postmodern poem because it is not depending on a rhyme scheme to convey a message, right? And it also depends more on the emotional side of things and the imagery side of it. So it uses emotional language and it uses imagery to show us what is actually happening. While for postmodern writers or postmodern poetry, you will see ambiguity, diversity, complexity. But this poem is more on the ambiguous side of things because it utilizes ambiguous language to show us what they are actually saying in that time or what Miss Boland was trying to convey. To better understand a poem, we must understand who wrote the poem. That's right, we need to know the author of the poem so as to set the tone for the perspective we will be taking on the matter. With that said, according to the Irish Times, published May 2, 2020, Eavan Boland was an astounding Irish poet and academic who would have shared the woman's experience in her work. She was born September 24, 1944 and died April 27, 2020. She produced over 10 collections of poetry and an award-winning essay compilation, prose writings, and a collection of German women poets. In her own image, 1980, Night Feed, 1982, Outside History, 1990, and Domestic Violence, 2007, are 4 collections by Boland that explore historical and contemporary female identity. Now, I wanted to take into consideration that her work is purely written from a woman's perspective and a woman's experience, right? And contemporary female identity. Now let us get into the poem itself. It says, I found it among curios and silver, in the pureness of wintry light, a woman painted on a leaf, fine lines drawn on a veined surface in a handmade frame. Now we are now seeing the word wintry. Wintry referring to the season, winter. And the next line it says, a woman painted on a leaf. We're seeing the element of nature, leaf. And then it goes to say, fine lines drawn on a veined surface in a handmade frame. What could this really mean? Well, in science class we were taught that a leaf can be either a monocotyledon or a dicotyledon, or a monocot or a dicot. What are these? The monocotyledon or the monocot leaf has veins that are parallel to each other. It's synonymous to what is a book leaf. So the lines on the book leaf would be synonymous to the monocotyledon veins. And then you have the dicotyledon or dicot leaf that is net veined, which more resembles the vein of the skin. Now when we put that into perspective, we see now the ambiguous language of Miss Boland utilized here, because if the leaf can be both a book and the veins of a person, then it simply means that she is saying something here. Now in an interview, which I will show you, she said that there was a time in Ireland where the word woman and poet were polarized, or they're magnetized opposites. so are oppositions. So they weren't used side by side or in one thing. So it's either you're a woman or you're a boy. Could this then be an insertion that she is making, or an assertion that she's making, that hey, I am not just a woman or I'm not just a poet, I am both. This is what makes me an individual. And then she says, in a handmade frame, which simply means this was made by somebody else. So they have placed her in a picture frame, or what I say, they have limited her to just the traditional roles. And I would dare say the roles are perspective placed from the masculine side. So she's saying that she, the woman, is painted on a leaf in a handmade frame. She is painted in a picture by a perspective which limits her. But she is saying that she's not limited by that. When she goes into the next line by saying, this is not my face, neither did I draw it, simply means she did not design these traditional roles for herself. It was somebody who made up these rules for her. A leaf falls in a garden, the moon cools its aftermath of sap. The pike of summer dries it out in starlight. A woman is inscribed there. What does all this mean? Now, according to the book titled A Tale of Genji and its Chinese tale, according to the book titled The Tale of Genji and its Chinese precursors, beyond the boundaries of nation, class, and gender by Jindan Ni, the pre-modern Chinese considered the moon a symbol of femininity, the opposite of the masculine sun. But you notice that she has mentioned the moon's name, but not the sun's name, which could mean that she refuses to even mention the man or even think about the perspective of a man or from a masculine point of view. She says the moon cools its aftermath. Now the moon is known in astronomy, if you study space or astronomy, and in science, a branch of science that is, that it is known to have a gravitational pull which controls the tides or the waves, especially when it's a full moon. Now, could this be connected to the feminism movement or the waves that was happening during Miss Boland's time period? Her first work, I believe, was published in 1962 at the age of 22, when the second wave of the feminist movement was in effect. And then her bulk of her work was done pretty much between the second and the third wave of the feminism movement. Now, is this a calling out to a change or a transition from coming into one's individuality, into one's femininity? It could be an indication of her owning up to who she is as an individual and dismissing the perspective of the man. So when she says the pipe of summer dries out in starlight, it could mean then that the masculine's perspective or tradition of a woman's role, it limits it so much that it dries up. It doesn't glow the way it should be, because the women are not embracing who they should be. They're only embracing the ideology set by men. No. That's why it says a woman is inscribed there. Ooh. Then she goes on to say, this is not death, It is the terrible suspension of life. What does this mean? Then she says, I want a poem I can grow old in. I want a poem I can die in. Now there are three definitions of suspension. You have the one that speaks to being stopped or being removed, or the one that you're paused for a time. So it's like, for instance, you're suspended from school, and then you have the suspension that is in a car that helps you to have a comfortable journey. And then you have the other suspension in science that is a heterogeneous mixture with some of the solubles or solutes that cannot be dissolved. They sink to the bottom. So like a stone, like sand would be at the bottom and the water would be at the top. The opposite of that is a homogeneous mixture. I'm not a science student, but I can probably explain it a little bit more with the definition popping up on the screen. So when it says it is the terrible suspension of life, it just means that the situation that they're in is not dead. However, it is not comfortable. It's not comfortable to live this life. It would almost feel as if you are dead. So it's terrible that we have to, well, I wouldn't want to say we because I'm not a woman, but it would be terrible for you to be living as if you are dead because you are not functioning the way you should be, and you are limited to the traditions and perspective set by men. It then goes to say, I want to take this dried out face as you take a starling from behind the iron and return it to its air of element, or to its element of air of ending. Now she wants to take whatever this perspective is, right, like a starling, and be freed from this iron to fly. When a bird is in a cage, it is limited, it is restricted. It can only fly to as far as the cage goes. When the cage opens and it flies out, it has all room just to be free. And I think this is what Boland is speaking to, as in she wants the chance to be free, to be one with her feminine or femininity or feminine side. So that autumn, which was once the hard look of stars, the frown on a gardener's face, a gradual bronzing of the distance. Here we're seeing another season, autumn. Now autumn is right before winter. With autumn comes dying leaves, and a lot of leaves falling off the trees and on the streets. And hence why she says the frown of a gardener's face, because if you're a gardener and you're seeing a lot of leaves, it means a lot of work, and nobody wants that. But then she says a gradual bronzing of the distance. It could very well mean these traditions, these roles that women are expected to play would be a thing of the past, and not something to look for, because the changes set by the feminine energy or the moon, just like how the moon controls the tides, feminism, the feminism wave is happening, and the changes are imminent. Will be from now on a crisp, tender underfoot. Cheekbones, eyes will be a mouth crying out, let me die. Why didn't she just say, let me live? She didn't say, let me live, but she said, let me die. She wants to be reckless. She wants to be reckless enough to make moments for herself, to have experiences that men limited to that men did not limit her to have. So she wants to have experiences that women should have, you know. So let her be reckless. If you're so protective of men, are normally, it is said that men are protective of women. Their woman, the one that they love, because a lot of things haven't happened, but that's not the story, no. But She doesn't want to be protected. She wants to live recklessly, to have experiences that women should have, so that she can become one with her femininity and not be ascribed to the traditions or the masculine perspective of how a woman should operate. And I think that is it for the analysis of the poem. I'm sure I missed out. I'm not sure if I missed out anything, but thank you for watching. My name is Rahim Betty. Have a wonderful evening. God bless.